Alright, Diablo 4 players, today we have a very controversial video which talks about bringing back one of the most craziest things that came out in any video game, which was a real money auction house. This is something that specifically existed in Diablo 3, and it was completely legal to do it. As most video games, if you engage in any RMT, your accounts will be banned, and of course sometimes now they hardware ban you for certain games, but this did exist. I made lots and lots of money off of Diablo 3 when they had the in-game auction house, and it was done through PayPal, which was very convenient for some people. But what ended up happening with Diablo 3 when they had this auction house is that people ended up playing the auction house versus actually playing the game. And there's a article here that talks about kind of why it was removed by Wyatt over here, and on top of that, there's a lot of discussion about bringing back the auction house. I want to go ahead and kind of give you guys the pros and the cons, and I also genuinely want your guys' feedback. As a Diablo partner, I can try to relay some info to Blizzard and get that info out there if players actually want this or not, because people have been talking about a loot filter or an auction house for quite some time, and maybe it will be something that they have in the works. But the first thing I want to talk about is kind of addressing the question, why can't we have an auction house? So a lot of people are mentioning that the trade chat is kind of bad. Using the Diablo trade website, it is pretty bad. There's a lot of people that do get banned on the website, but they just keep on making new accounts. It's kind of like playing whack-a-mole. When they make a new account, they offer you an item for, let's say, gold, but then you whisper them, they're like, hey, here's my PayPal address, or here's my, Bitcoin address. I need, I need Ethereum or whatever crypto in order for me to give you the item. And it's just really annoying, because on top of that, there were a lot of duped items that went around, and there was a season where a lot of people bought items, they would have it in their inventory, and then it would magically just disappear. It was a problem that Diablo 2 actually had, because people were also duping in that game, and it happens with all games. It's not just with Diablo where duping occurs, but it's kind of weird, because if you're looking at the viewpoint of oh, it's a Blizzard game, well, WoW has an auction house, why can't we have the same, essentially, is the question here. And some people are saying there is no reason, they don't want to do it for whatever reason, and I honestly think that there are definitely pros and cons. So I want this video to kind of address the controversial question, should Diablo 4 get an auction house? Will this essentially save the game? Because a lot of people get burnt out of farming certain items, and because you can't really play the game to actually get the drops, which is essentially the main reason why the auction house was apparently removed in Diablo 3, that was a main factor. And I think it was done for good reasons, because they had a real money auction house. Now, also Diablo 3 was kind of a different game at the time that the auction house existed, because you would just get max level. There wasn't this infinite Paragon grind when the other thing did exist, right? But I look at other video games and how they do auction houses that are more modern games. I was looking at Last Epoch, and one thing I really liked with Last Epoch that they did with their auction house, which was all based on gold, was that the items that you would acquire would only be able to be acquired one time. So you wouldn't really have to worry about bots buying items and then reflipping them. Because I think that that's going to be definitely an issue with a lot of video games going forward, is AI and all these bots trying to buy items and flipping them and stuff like that. Where, again, before, this was actually an issue with Diablo. There was applications that were they were called snipers, and they would buy items. If they were listed too cheap, they would instantly snipe it. But since there was a PayPal fee, there was kind of an area where, well, you kind of had to get around. You had to make sure you were profiting enough at some point. But there's also another problem with trading in general, and this happens with Path of Exile, where if you go and look up an item, for example, let's say this Impulsa over here, you can see it says someone's only asking 1 Chaos Orb, but then the rest are all really high. This one player that's listing it for 1 Chaos Orb, he's doing what's called a price fix, meaning that he never intends to sell it. So when you go look up this item, especially for a new player, and you're like, oh, I just got this item, it's only worth 1 Chaos Orb? Okay, I guess that's the price. And this is a big issue with Path of Exile for newer players. They have to kind of learn the hard way of well, you get screwed over by people kind of scamming the entire system, because sometimes with certain items, there's 10 of these items listed, for example, Headhunter. Sometimes there's a bunch of listings for 1 Chaos Orb or 1 Divine, when it's going for 10 times the amount, or whatever the case is at the time. But basically, there's a lot of other issues that come out. And if you might be thinking, well, what about RMT? I promise you RMT already exists in Diablo, because I know some people may think, okay, if they bring back the auction house in Diablo 4, but it's only gold, people will consider it pay to win. I promise you guys, these other websites that are selling stuff for RMT 100% make money. To kind of give you guys an insight, they are making bank. The websites that are selling these duped materials, you can see this is an email that I got. They were offering me $2,000 per month. only for a 15-second intro to link in my videos for them to advertise their gold buying websites. And I'm always on the side of like, well, as much as I would like to get 2K extra per month, I don't want your guys' accounts to be banned. It's not even a morality thing, but that's the main concern that I have as far as like RMT goes, because it already exists in the game. Again, these websites wouldn't be able to pay content creators thousands and thousands of dollars for ads if, of course, it wasn't profitable. So the RMT already exists in the game. So that argument of it being pay to win, people already do it. But I want to go ahead and start off with this little like notes section that I have over here, and I want to talk about like why it was removed in Diablo 3. So they wanted people to actually play the game, and I think that this was a really good idea, removing it in the sense where players were playing the auction house instead of playing the game to get gear. That is kind of like a flawed game design, right? You want people to play your game to get the best loot, because Diablo 3, believe it or not, back when they only had like this really hard difficulty called Inferno where you get the best gear, the gear was so incredibly rare that like it just an Endariel's helm, not even like, it wasn't even a mythic, just like a unique. I remember I got one and it was sold for $80 in the like for US dollars, which is insane. That's more than the price of the game. But that is how insane some of these items were in terms of rarity. Like, again, you would profit more off of just simply, well, back in my time when we used to use Skype to actually farm items, what we would do is we would all get on Skype, we'd all get on separate different instances of areas, and if a goblin spawned in, we'd say my game, and then everyone would join that person's game, we'd all kill the goblin, we'd all get the loot from it. That's how farming at the high level was for Diablo 3, but you weren't really playing the game, except for the people at the top level. They were able to play the game and farm the loot, and then they would just sell it to the other players, which, you know, kind of exists in D4 to an extent as well. But the thing with D4 is like going up to, you know, higher tier pits doesn't give you more reward. So in a sense, it just needs to be just farming the same bosses again and again, which they said they didn't want us to do chain boss farming, but at the end of the day, you have to chain boss farm if you want the mythics. Mythics are still technically not tradable as of right now. But I'm saying from a viewpoint of like, I have over 2,000 hours in Diablo 4, and I still don't have a lot of the aspects maxed out by just playing the game. I have a bunch of aspects maxed out, but I'll tell you, they were either from my community, as in someone's like, hey, I got this, you want this item? Or I went to the trade website and I would buy it for gold. This is not, again, RMT, but trading gold for that aspect, which would cost you billions and trillions of gold anyways, because the gold is so inflated because of RMT and duping in the first place. But as far as it goes, in Diablo 4, we are still making Diablo 3 mistakes. And that is, if I want to get like a triple GA piece of gear or a quad GA piece of gear, am I going to be playing the game to get that? The answer is no. I would have to go trade to actually get that. And I think that is an issue when we have Diablo 4, which should be, you know, the sequel to Diablo 3. It's still making the same mistakes. You cannot play the game more to get like a triple G8 that actually works. Unless they drop a new currency that just makes one stat a greater affix on your item, I simply will never have the mindset of, okay, I need to get the best gear today. I need to get some new boots. All right, let's just play the game. It's just realistically not going to happen. You could go to the obol vendor and you can spend your obols, maybe get a 1 to 2 GA pair of boots, but then you're like, oh, life per 5 seconds. Oh, or 10 life on hit. And it's just like, it feels very frustrating to get those GAs that aren't good. And because there's no good ways of like different currencies to craft in Diablo 4 at the current game state, you legitimately cannot just play the game to get your gear, right? You can play the game and get gold and then use the gold and then go trade. But then again, you don't have an in-game trade system. You have like a third-party website, Discord, where a lot of like bad things can maybe happen. Most of the time, it's honestly not that bad, but I've heard so many stories to the point where like, I get it, some people are, you know, still getting scanned by putting an item, hold on, I have no room, hold on, let me go swap, and they put an item that looks the same. These are like very rookie mistakes that it was back in like the Diablo 2 days where they would put in a gem to change the color and be like, it's Tal Rasha's armor, right? But like, there's so many things that like, that just can happen when it's not like an official in-game trade auction house, is what I'm trying to say. But again, if it takes so long, like for example, again, using the example of like, if I want to get an upgrade on my boots or my gloves, I'm not going to just play the game, right? It's going to take so long to the point where like, I'm just going to quit. Sure, if I play the game for, 30 plus hours a day for years, maybe I can get 3 and 4 GA in every slot. but Diablo 4 is mainly oriented itself around a casual game experience, and I think to make the casuals have a little bit more fun with this game, you need to make getting 3 and 4 GA pieces of gear a little bit more frequent, because even if it's 3 or 4 GA, you could still get a garbage roll. I'm talking about the life per 5 seconds, life on hit, or any of the other stats that people simply don't care about, right? And on top of that, you only can have one sort of way to craft. It's like, okay, you have your item, you reroll one thing. That's the crafting, GG's. It's like they just copy and paste D3 system where they didn't really flesh out the crafting. So I think that ideally we would have a proper crafting system to actually get, more GAs on pieces of gear, or kind of reroll certain things. Other than just one reroll, that's it. It's literally just Diablo 3 all over again. So I think that they could look at making that a little bit better for that. But as far as rules that I want to go over, if we do get an auction house, I want to set this in stone before we go over the pros and cons of adding one. So if they were to add one, I think that this is very acceptable for most players, is that what I'm suggesting is if I suggest to Blizzard that we add an auction house, it would be for gold only. Maybe you can trade items for items, but no real money involved in that, okay? Just so we're clear on everything that I'm going to talk about here. And then I said maybe on this, because this issue over here where I'm thinking that items can only be traded once. This way it avoids people flipping items, because again, even if they have gold only, I promise you some AI or some other like bot will buy up all the items if you list it for too cheap, and then it will just relist them all. This is very common in tons of video games. Even if they have like a 10% like auction house fee, it doesn't matter. People will eventually just start using AI and bots. And I think that this implementation that Last Epoch had was actually a pretty good one, and I like this one a lot, because as someone that gets rid of your items, it doesn't really bother you at all. And as someone that is buying the items, it usually doesn't bother you too much unless you want to flip. But at this point, you have removed flipping. Now, I definitely have like traded items in PoE where I bought them for less and then sold it for more, because I know that I can craft something on it. But in general, like most of these things, you'll get pinged so fast because there's so many people doing active searching for so many things. When something goes cheap, it's all, again, AI and bots, where it's something where it's definitely kind of frustrating, especially when someone might just want to use the item, right? And you could get it for way cheaper if this doesn't exist. So I think that maybe making it so items are account bound after one trade, okay? So if items drop, they're not account bound like in D3, but they're account bound on maybe equip. So then, like, you can only equip it one time, if that makes any sense. And then once you don't want it, well, that's kind of it. The item essentially is going to be going away. Or if you craft on the item, you can no longer then trade it, which is kind of the current state of the game anyways. Also, the items that you get off of like the caches or the tree whispers, there's a lot of items from the season journey where if you open them out of the bag, you can't trade them anyway. So maybe something like that after, again, you trade it one time. So let's talk about the good that the auction house would bring. So I would say that it lets people not get scammed via like RMT, and obviously, again, if it's like an in-game sort of system, I think that'd be much better, especially for console. Some console players, they don't really want to go on like their phone or a different website, log in, have account, password, whatever. I get it. It's just annoying. So it'd be really great if it's all in-game. That way you don't have to really worry about anything, and you don't have to get like scammed via RMT. I've seen even the craziest thing is because like I'm in a bunch of different Facebook groups for a lot of video games because I like to see what people are talking about. And like there are Facebook groups that are like selling items, and then someone will post something asking for real money or any sort of like crypto, which I think is hilarious. They'll sell like really garbage items, but I still think that this in-game thing would be so much better for the community overall, because again, it would prevent a lot of scams, even though there are other scams that could exist with the auction house. But it's, I would say overall, less scams if there's an official auction house. I think that there would be more aspects to max out, and this could really help out in progression, because like if I need to get an aspect, again, this goes to the same point that why Diablo 3 removed the auction house was like they want people to play the game to get the gear, right? And if we have it so at the current game state, which is like I really need to get an aspect for my character, right? I need to get that bonus to Jaguar, like extra ranks, ferocity, whatever the case is. I can't just play the game and hope to get the max old aspect. Sure, I can go for offensive pieces of gear that can maybe roll in like the gloves or something that have like a higher chance because you don't have all these other defensive stats, right? But I still think that it is simply impossible to max out your aspects by playing the game. This would really help out, because then I can try to min-max my Crone Staff Druid build or my other builds that aren't meta. I could still at least get them to be a little bit stronger. That's a good thing. And I think that it would allow access for people to try newer builds faster, because here's how I think a lot of people feel. This kind of includes me, is like, I used to play every single class to level 100 back in when level 100 was the max. And I would get to the point where like it felt like it was kind of boring to play all these new characters. But like, if I already have a bunch of gold, I could be like, well, you know, I've been playing this character, I have a bunch of gold, let's go build a druid. I can go ahead and use all my gold on this character and then build the druid, play the druid for a bunch, get a bunch of gold, and be like, okay, now I want to go play a barb, or I want to go play another thing. I like this specifically with Diablo 2. I don't know if any of you guys have played Diablo 2, but like, you make like, everyone makes a sorc or a paladin at the start, right? And then you're like, I'm kind of done with it, I want to go play something else. And you just literally trade all of your gear for all gear of like another class, right? You can go Boson or like, you know, Fist of the Heavens, or you play these other things when you're done with the build. Again, the only issue is like after you equip them, if we make him account bound, then that kind of becomes an issue. But again, this is something where at least if with gold, like you wouldn't have to farm again for all your pieces of gear. But I remember liking that a lot in Diablo 2, because it takes so long in Diablo 2, especially if you're trying to farm for the runes in the game. So it made things a lot easier. And I think that another thing that would actually kind of help out, because I always think about like, you know, in terms of like game like wording that really investors like, right? So I look at this like retention rate. So I think that this would make people want to log in. They're like, oh, log in, let me see if some of my stuff sold. Oh, cool, this thing sold, let me go ahead and list this, and let me go get my gold, and I want to go play this other build because I got a bunch of gold waiting for me to. It gives people a reason to log in, right? So I think that that's actually pretty good in terms of an idea, because I think keeping people interested in your game for an extended period of time, because right now for a lot of like the people that are blasters in Diablo, it's like, okay, hop in Diablo new season. Okay, I play for a week. All right, I max out a character. Whatever. I'm over it. Let's go play PoE. Let's go play Last Epoch. Let's go play another game. Whereas like, I want to say, for at least for me, like I can stick around PoE a lot longer because like, oh, the trade. That is a huge reason to like come and check in, you know, like log in. Sometimes I leave Path of Exile run in the background while I make these videos, because if I hear someone that wants to trade, pause the video, go do the trade, come back, or do whatever. I like being logged into the game. So I think that that is kind of a good thing as well. And then I also think that it's easier to buy and sell items without needing to spam chat, because like spamming in trade channels in a video game, like I know they have like a trade channel, but like it's so outdated. It is like Neanderthal levels of like thinking to be like, all right, I'm gonna spam this item 1,000 times in the trade channel, hope someone buys it. Like, this is like so outdated. Or even posting on like JSP or like any other forums, like, hey guys, these are the items I have to sell. And then the worst part is like, if you list 50 different items, it's like, hold on, let me go tell people, I'm sorry, man, I already sold the item. It's just annoying. It's just so outdated. So I think that this is much better. Like, Discord's a little bit better because like, you just remove the post, but like it's still annoying to deal with, especially if you're dealing with so many items, right? And then also the gold in general just becomes more valuable as like a currency, because you're always farming towards gold. So your player kind of feels like they're always working towards something. This is something that I really like with Path of Exile in particular, where like I'm always getting more Chaos Orbs, I'm getting more Divine Orbs, I'm constantly building up, so then if I want to build something else, I have all this excess that is ready to go. And I think that it does help casual players a lot if they want to get something. This was something that I saw very, very frequently. Like when I'm playing on my live stream, I give away items all the time to my viewers, because like I play this game like 30 hours a day. I really don't need 1 or maybe even 2 GA items, unless it's like a triple or quadruple. I usually just don't care. Like, I'm not going to go list it on a website because I just don't feel like it's worth my time. But I think it would help a lot of the casual players that, like, you know, maybe they don't go out to a bunch of streams, you know, like, because like if I'm playing Rogue, there's generally a lot more people that maybe play Rogue as well that are watching to, you know, look at like the build or see what the other person's doing, and like I can join up and be like, hey, do you want this item? You know, I got this is extra. I already have like a triple or quadruple GA. I don't need this one. You can have it for free. And I always try to help people in Diablo as far as a community and as a Diablo partner. I always try to help you guys get the best builds and give you guys items. But for casuals, I think that some players are too shy to ask, like, hey, dude, is that an extra item? Like, I genuinely will just salvage the item. Like, it gives me no value to hold on to like another item in Diablo. In PoE, if the item's worth several divines, I'm gonna be honest, I don't give those away because I can always get currency for it. But I think for the casual players, they really need a source of like, I really need that Tempest Roar. That was one that like in season, like basically up until season 2, this was something that was asked all the time. Because usually I'm just like, if anyone needs gear, let me know and I'll look out for you. But like, I'm usually playing Rogue, so a lot of gear doesn't drop for like the other classes. But I remember Tempest Roar was a big issue for the casuals because like there's you have to wait till you get to Duriel to really get to it. So I think this would really help the casual players get like that one piece of gear that they need to access a build to be online, right? Like you're playing like the Bloodwave Necromancer, you need the pants to get the damage, right? And I think that this would really help out the casual players. So I think this is a good thing. Now, there may be other good things, and I'm curious to know if you guys have any good other suggestions down below. But let's go over the bad. So I would say Diablo 4 always has bugs. This is kind of an issue just internally in the game compared to like the rest of the Diablo games. There's always a new bug. There's always a new dupe. There's always like, okay, this glyph isn't working. I think within time we will get to the point where Diablo 4 is like stable, right? But there's always like this new thing where, oh guys, sorry, this skill is disabled. Sorry, this power is disabled. There's a new bug. This one's disabled. And like, I've had some people equip pieces of gear and they're like, why are people not running this? Oh, sorry, the glyph doesn't work. This multiplier, this aspect isn't working. I'm just afraid that like what happens if they do introduce trading is that this may happen. Now, I want to say that this one is something that could be ironed out, you know, as time goes on, but I'm definitely sensing that there's still duping that goes around, especially with Belial materials. But there could be other scams and other dupes that do happen because they introduce this. There's going to be a lot more, you know, different ways that people try to figure out how to dupe, because if there's any ways for people to make like real money in any video game, expect this. I also think that if bots could buy items, like this could be definitely a bad thing. But remember, I was also mentioning maybe items, you know, one-time trade. Right, if we did a one-time trade, we don't have to worry about bots buying all the items in the auction house, because like now listing on, you know, different websites, I don't know if bots engage in any of that, because that's kind of hard to sense if bots are buying the items on different websites and then relisting them, right? Because you'd be relisting them for like what, more in-game gold. But there's also a problem in general with gold in this game. I don't know if any of you guys have reached the gold cap, but when you do trade for lots of items, you actually get to the point where you are capped. So some people were actually buying multiple accounts to actually hold the gold, which actually, in a sense, I mean, even though I'm marking this as kind of a bad thing, Blizzard needs to increase the gold cap in the game also, because again, you actually have a limit of gold, and sometimes when you want too many items, or if you're doing well with the trade, like you got lots of gold sitting around, yeah, that definitely becomes a problem, especially because the inflation of gold is pretty bad in Diablo. Again, it's probably due to dupes and RMT anyways, and definitely when people are poofing items, and especially when you were looking at the trade website and there's like 5 of the exact same item that are all like triple or quadruple GA'd, that's kind of suspicious, right? But as far as botting and farming, I think that overall, like this already can, like this isn't going to make people, I would say, bot more, because people that are already doing it are doing RMT, not just gold. Now, would this encourage more? I would say if more people are interested in Diablo, there is more interest in making these bots in the first place, right? But I don't think the reason why they don't introduce an auction house is because, well, all the scams and dupes and botters, like these are all like dishonest things anyways, right? Like if we look at the cons in the game as far as adding an auction house, because this is kind of a controversial video, I really don't even think it's that controversial, but I know it is if we talk about RMT. But if we talk about just like what are the bad sides? These are all basically players that don't want to engage in like legitimate, like, you know, positive behavior anyways. So I would say that the good should outweigh the bad in terms of like looking at it. So overall, I actually have a final question and also kind of a wrap up for the video. So right now, RMT and gold trade exists anyways, right? Like we've already established that. I already showed you guys like this is one, and I've gotten offered so many different amounts. This was kind of like a larger one. There's a lot that will offer you like 1,000 or 500 to just put out one ad, which is actually pretty good. Obviously, it depends on your channel size, but they are definitely making money at the end of the day. So I want to say that already exists anyways, and I think that it is just painful to just to have to engage in like the gold trade in the game by going to Diablo.trade or Crimson Market. There's tons of different Diablo trade websites, but for the most part, it's just Diablo.trade, let's be real. But it is just painful to engage in the legitimate like gold trade already. I understand RMT, again, that already exists. So like their idea of, oh, this is just going to encourage pay to win. It already exists in the game anyways. But the main question I have for you guys, if you guys lasted this long, is will you play Diablo 4 more or less if they add an auction house? Because at the end of the day, that I think is what matters the most to Blizzard. For me personally, I think that I would play this game more if they had an auction house for multiple reasons. One, again, I would be able to log in every single day and kind of check, you know, what's selling and stuff, and then 2, I can make video guides on like the auction house, what items are good this season, what classes are people playing, and like that helps me as a content creator. So I have my incentives, but on top of that, I think it's better for the players already because, again, it allows you to make other builds a lot faster. And if you're just missing that one item, or if you're like, I just want to play this build, and you can just get that unique, and you know that, like, you know, in a certain amount of time, maybe, you know, in a couple hours, or depending on what item you need. If you just like, I just need that unique, I don't care if it's a G, I just want to play with it, test out the item, you don't have to wait and farm for it. And I think that that overall is going to be a better thing. But anyways, thanks for enjoying the long video and rant over here, but let me know your thoughts on any of the things that we talked about in this video, or if you have any other pros or cons, let me know as well. But thanks for tuning in. If you guys are new here, enjoy the video, subscribe if you guys want to see more. I'll catch you Diablo gamers in the next video. Peace out.